Hi, welcome to our first episode, should I say, of the Spurs Takeover for the new year. This is our first episode for 2020, and we are joined today by our special guests. We're going to be joined by Jonas Clark, Steven Anderson of Project Spurs, and Wesley Perkins. Thank you guys for making the time to join, all of us here. And let's talk about the Spurs loss. I mean, the Spurs are Jekyll and Hyde. One thing is the Spurs play great at times, and sparingly. It's not that they can get it together for a full 4 quarters. You're either going to get the first half where you're going to play really solid defense and you look amazing. You have Portal, which is Jonas's boy out there, playing alongside, some of the younger players. I think he played alongside, DeJounte or Derek White for a spell there. Looked quite, they look quite dangerous out in the open court. You inserted one Lonnie Walker in there. He got some minutes and was quite productive in tonight's game. But then you go through stretches like you saw for the third quarter where the Spurs just come out flat and that 9-point lead all but evaporates. OKC comes back in, takes the lead. We go into the fourth quarter and the Spurs just can't get any stops. But it all started in the third. The defense that we saw that was so prevalent in the first half of tonight's game was all but non-existent. And that's a head scratcher because most of the personnel that played that good defense was out there on the court for much of the fourth quarter. And that was a lot of the younger guys. You had Portal, Portal out there. You had Lonnie Walker, you had DeJounte, you had Derek White. You had all these players out there, and still they just seemed to not be able to get it together. So that's a head scratcher. We'll go around the horn here. We'll go ahead and start with you, Jonas. What were your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head there, Joe. It was a story of two halves. It came out, looked amazing in the first half, and then it just collapsed. I know we've had a tendency all season to at least drop one quarter in the second half. Usually that we've been really good at clawing back. I don't think we were quite good enough at clawing back tonight, and it was real disappointing because otherwise, that first half was very entertaining. Effectiveness from 3-point range. Everybody was shooting from deep. And of course, the defense just looked solid. We've given up 42 points in a quarter at points this season, and we held them to 46 at half. So I don't know what it was down the stretch. Steven, you made a very good point on Twitter after DeMar hit his head on the floor. He got up, looked a little bit different. I think maybe he shook that off by the end because he kind of started to come up a little clutch there towards it. But that's not to say that he wasn't dealing with a fog and was playing through it. So overall, disappointed.
Yeah, we got some comments here from some of our listeners. Doris Compano Basco says, DeRozan needs to sit down. Matthew Farmer 84 says, guy who doesn't get talked about enough. Trey Lyles, I really don't know what to think of the guy. Well, Trey Lyles, again, he did pretty good. It looked like there for a stretch in the first half, and then he was all but non-existent in the second half of play. So I'm with him on that one. Why he isn't, I guess, so productive consistently throughout the whole game, that's another head scratcher. It could just be, he's just not in rhythm. And when you're not in rhythm early and then you get played sparingly, you come in, you come out of the game, it's hard to get in the game. You're just out there primarily for your defense, and then if they get any production out of you on the offensive end, it's a plus. But it's hard to get in rhythm when you're not really out there for extended stretches. So that could have something to do with it. Aiden Leister says, SGA. Yeah, man, I get what he's saying. That's the same thing Jonas had pointed out to me before the game, and that's the same thing that me and Jeff Garcia talked about on Locked On Spurs before the game. Jamie Sanchez on YouTube, should I say? Forbes shouldn't be on the floor. He's your number 2 guard out there. And the thing is, there was one play in particular where they gave the ball to Brent Forbes to dribble up the court. Why the hell would you all do that?
God.
And what happened? It immediately turned into a turnover because once again, he's not a point guard. You have to get the ball to your point guard so the point guard can go ahead and dribble the ball up the court. Why they gave it to Bryn Forbes is beyond me. Bryn Forbes is just out there for shooting. He's not out there to be a great defender. He's just out there to be a spot-up shooter. He's an SG, a shooting guard. You know, he's not your primary scorer out there on the court. He's more of that Patty Mills role player out there. You know, he's going to go ahead and give you some production, but he's undersized, so he really can't be a defensive presence out there. So I get what people are saying. There really is no magic fix to this team. Once again, I'm tired of trying to, church them up and try to find the good and all these things. The only good part about this, and I think you can allude to this too, Stephen, and we'll pitch to you, is the play of some of the younger guys. At least they're getting minutes, right?
For sure. And I mean, I tweeted you this earlier, Joe, and everybody else, was when Lonnie Walker and Jakob Poeltl are out there, good things happen for the Spurs. And there are moments on this show, and I've said on Twitter and online, which is the guys need to be out there. Those younger guys need to be out there. I don't understand why this Pop continues with this starting lineup that he's been going with when it's proven to not work. You had a fun fact. First of all, just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you guys. Happy New Year to everybody else out there. For Christmas, I got NBA 2K.
Oh,
right here.
Yeah.
And I used Pop's lineup on NBA 2K. The same lineup that we saw tonight. I'm 2-11.
Oh,
there it is.
There you go.
So it tells you. I mean, that's the same line. Lyles, Forbes, DeRozan, Aldridge, Murray. That was 5. I've been using those 5 since the season started. When I'm playing 2K, I'm 2-11. I'm on a 7-game losing streak right now. I lost to the Golden State Warriors with Clay, Steph, all their main guys by 2 points. I got blown up by 45 against the Pelicans. So it tells you how inconsistent the Spurs are in video game form. And they're just as inconsistent in real life. And I think that has to do with the starting lineup, as you said. The younger guys really need to play more. I love seeing tonight you had DeJounte, Derek White out there, Lonnie, you had Jakob Poeltl out there. And all those guys play very, very well together. But when you put in a guy like, unfortunately, Bryn Forbes, who has not been playing well these past couple of weeks, he's been very cold. Tonight, him, Patty Mills, Trey Lyles were I think 3 of whatever from the field overall. That's not very good. And I've been saying this, you should probably maybe you're in 2020 now, to change that lineup. Why not?
You know damn well Pop ain't gonna change that lineup.
Oh, of course he's not. Of course he's not. But if it was me, what I'm going to do in 2K is I'm going to change the lineup to see what happens.
You know what? Do this for me. Do this for me, Steven.
Matt too.
If you play NBA 2K, go ahead and insert Jakob Poeltl as a starter instead of Trey Lyles. 2, don't let DeJounte Murray be your starting point guard. Go ahead and insert Derek White, and then report back to us and tell us what you get.
I will do that in the next episode. But, I mean, that's the thing, is that the Spurs are just too inconsistent. You said it point blank, Jonas, that inconsistent defense from first half to second half. I mean, where was that team in the first half, in the second half? It was like they went to the locker room, forgot everything they did, came out and just looked like they were dumbstruck a deer in headlights. I mean, and then Pop does the unthinkable, and I know, Wesley, you want to talk about this too. He takes out Lonnie Walker, and I understand Lonnie was in foul trouble, but Lonnie was the only source of offense for the Spurs when DeMar was struggling. And you take him out for Rudy Gay, who also had a decent game, but I just don't get it. Maybe I'm starting to maybe believe Wesley's point that maybe the Spurs are tanking, but not really tanking. I'm not sure what to think of it.
Yeah, let me go ahead and read some of our comments before we go ahead and pitch to Wesley. Kind of interesting here. Let's see what they said. Gio Lamore said, should Luka and KP really be outperforming DeMar in LA at this stage in their careers? You know what? DeMar DeRozan is still a prolific scorer. He's still a prolific scorer. LaMarcus Aldridge has been the guy who has been extremely inconsistent. There's going to be some games where he'll go off for 40, then he'll go turn around and go off for maybe 3 or 4 points. And, I just couldn't get it together. You're getting paid all that money. You should be getting it together every single night. No excuses. Jason Garcia says, the Spurs lost. Okay, cool. Come on, lottery pick. Come to SA. Gio Lamore says, there's no reason the Mavs should have a better record than San Antonio. Actually, the Mavs.
Yes, they should.
Yeah, they should.
The Mavs have a good young core right there. They have, Luka Doncic, and then they have, Kristaps Porzingis and a bunch of young athletic players out there. They're playing at a high level, and their role players are playing great, and their bench is playing good as well. So they have a good cohesive unit out there. Overall, they have a decent basketball team. Beyond your starters out there, they have a good bench, and they play good team ball. And they're more consistent than the Spurs are at this stage in the season. And I figure that as we move forward, we're going to start seeing more and more separation between the Mavs and the San Antonio Spurs, because I expect the Mavs to pretty much maybe move up a slot, but they're going to be pretty much where they're at, hanging around that 5 seed, 6 seed. They might move up to the 4 depending on how it pans out in the West to end the season, but I'm thinking that they're going to probably hang around there. Gio's also saying Spurs roster is subtraction by addition. Too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't know if it's too many cooks in the kitchen per se. I think it has more to do with the personnel out there.
Go ahead. Before you go to West, Joe, let me just say this to not just to the commenters on this show, but to everybody in Spurs Twitter, everybody who's begging for the Spurs to tank on purpose to get a high top 10 draft pick. You know damn well Pop is not going to play that draft pick. That draft pick's going to be in the D League for 2 or 3 years before he even gets to be on the Spurs bench or maybe even be a starter. Well, he says 3 years. But, I mean, that's the thing is that let's just be honest.
He's going to be in G League purgatory. He's going to be in G League purgatory.
Exactly. And you have all these other coaches. You had Steve Kerr on New Year's Eve playing his rookies, and understandably, I know it's a different situation. They got major injuries over there in Golden State. You have the Thunder tonight, who played their rookies also. You had a kid, Alexander. I think he's a second-year player or something like that. So, I mean, it shows, and he played last year when he was a rookie. So that shows you what rookies can do. They're hungry. They want to be in the NBA. I know they're not ready per se, basketball ready, but Lonnie has proven he's ready. Luka is playing well in the D League, but he's not ready yet fully. Keldon Johnson's been decent. I don't think he's ready yet.
Quinndari's been decent as well on defense.
Right, but are they NBA ready? I don't know, because I don't follow the Austin Spurs. Jonas, I know you do, but again, this dream of wanting a top 10 draft pick because they're going to automatically change the Spurs landscape, that's not going to happen. Pop is, if he's coaching next year, which he probably will, he's not going to play any rookies. He never does.
Yeah, if the Spurs finish the season out and they keep on losing and winning, they're on track to win about anywhere from 30 to 34 wins. That would probably get them around the 13th or 14th pick in the NBA draft that'll be upcoming after the season ends. And it's not good enough to get them a top 10 pick. And even if you get a top 10 pick, there's no guarantee beyond the first, 3 or 5 picks in the NBA draft.
New York.
That you can really get a quality player. There's always a gamble. Any lottery pick, even if you get the first pick in the draft, it doesn't always mean that player is going to come and make a difference right away. You still have to develop. You still have to work. They still have to learn the system. So it's part of the process. You get a player. It doesn't mean it's a magic fix. The only exception to that would be a David Robinson, a Tim Duncan type of player. They made a tremendous impact on the team right away coming in, and you could see that. But those are generational players, So you do have some good picks in the draft, don't get me wrong. But if the Spurs get one, it doesn't mean that we're going to find another Timmy and a Manu, a Tony Parker out there. These are generational players, and the Spurs are, at this juncture, who they are. They're just going to be inconsistent. And I don't believe that they're going to be able to really turn this thing around. We're already 8 games away. Now we're 7 games away from the halfway mark of the season, which is coming up, I believe, on the 15th or 17th when they play the Miami Heat. That's actually the halfway mark of the season, if you count it per 82 games. At that juncture, you're going to see who this team really is. And I dare say that we'll probably see them go maybe 3-4 in this 7-game stretch. I don't really see anything that's going to scream at me, they're going to go ahead and turn this thing around. I mean, the sad part is they have this January to actually figure things out, because once January's over with, You're already more than halfway through the season. Then you have February coming up. And in February, we all know what's going to happen. You have the rodeo road trip, and it's a juggernaut. 9 games against some teams that are really good, not only in the West, but on the East as well. So the schedule's not going to get any easier.
They actually have the hardest rated January of any ball club in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
The Spurs do. Yeah. So before they even get to the rodeo road trip, they're going to end up having to play the toughest schedule in the NBA.
They have the Bucks coming up, Wesley, back to back.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, I want to throw this out there, guys. I mean, just to kind of, you know, put a little bit towards what you're all saying, because everybody's got, you know, some really great commentary. And welcome back. Officially, it's fun to be back with you guys, and Happy New Year to everybody. You know, it's inexplicable why the lineups continue to shift night to night. And I think that in years past, when we saw the Spurs go through different lineups, you could go 10 or 11 deep, and it didn't really matter the order that Pop could go off the bench. The very biggest difference with that was that a lot of those guys are proven veterans that knew how to play D, that were going to give you the consistent effort every night. Right now, Pop doesn't have a consistent rotation. There's not a consistent, you know, you're going to see, you know, like Bellinelli didn't play at all tonight. Okay, right? And Lonnie.
Baloney didn't play. That's a good thing, Wesley.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. But, again, think of it from Lonnie's standpoint, right? Lonnie had a great game tonight. He took up those minutes. He should have gotten a lot more minutes in that fourth quarter because he was really starting to dominate. And then he got taken out. And it's almost like, okay, well, let's go back to, you know, the guys that have been in the starting lineup again. And you know, and I know that Steven was right on the money when he said that it did, you know, DeMar didn't look right after, you know, the floor, you know, hitting the floor as hard as he did. And I just, again, you talk about a guy like Trey Lyles. How can Trey Lyles get consistent when he doesn't know if he's going to come back in until, you know, a minute or two left in a quarter after?
Yeah, Trey Lyles only played 10 minutes to make your case even stronger.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And so I think at this point, if Pop really, you know, I don't want to be an armchair coach because, you know, Pop is a genius and I'm not.
We're all armchair coaches, Wesley.
Indeed. Okay, I'll wear the badge of honor. It just, to me, the one thing that I kind of see with him right now, his stubbornness and that we've talked about before, is just that he doesn't really know, I think, where he wants to turn on a given night. And, you know, LaMarcus was another great example. I don't know if y'all noticed this or thought about this at all tonight. LaMarcus was off to such a great start. I mean, he had looked like he was about to dominate OKC again, like he's been doing. And then inexplicably after, you know, he got into a little bit of foul trouble, but he really kind of vanished. And a lot of that was just Pop kind of buried him. He buried him on the bench for a while. I know Pirtle got in. He had some good energy play. But at some point, you got to go back to LaMarcus a little sooner. You got to get him established again. And if he's really your best player, and he's the guy that he's capable of putting you on his back a little bit and to carry you, you got to get him involved. And we all know this. He tends to kind of vanish on his own if you don't get him involved. And then you had, you know, guys like DeMar that, again, were dominating the ball. And yeah, he was getting it going a little bit, but, you know, at the cost of getting his team out of rhythm. And so when you look at things, it was kind of fool's gold. I know we all talked about that first half. But when you're looking at DeRozan and Aldridge being the guys that are getting you 3-pointers, that's not going to be great because Bryn and Patty were terrible from 3 tonight. Yeah. And I hate to say this, you know, before I shut up for a minute, I want to say this to you guys. Everybody, myself included, were clamoring at the end of the year last year that Patty Mills needed to go, that he needed to be the person on the Spurs that had the least value. He needed to be off the team. Well, guess what? Right now, when the Spurs get a bad game from Patty Mills, they lose. And when he's on the money, when he's hitting 3-pointers, his energy and that shot making, it gives his teammates confidence. And when that doesn't happen night to night, I hate to say it, he's kind of the linchpin at this point. And when they don't have that from him, they're going to lose ball games.
Yeah, because Patty's probably the engine that makes that second unit go. He's that energy player, you know, so he goes as the second unit goes, you know, and if he's not bringing it, he's not able to knock down those shots, which the Spurs need from him because he is a role player, much like, you know, Bryn Forbes. I mean, Bryn Forbes is a starting guard, a shooting guard at that, but that lineup isn't quite working with him in it. You know, they need to, I believe, have him come off the bench, and you need to get somebody who can give you more on the defensive end. You know, even though you might suffer on the offense, but you can turn defense into offense by getting steals, by crashing the boards, and having somebody who's at least 2 inches taller than Bryn Forbes. You know, because that's his problem. I mean, it's not his fault. You know, he's just an undersized guard. It's the nature of the beast. But I get what you're saying, Wesley, and I like your astute observations. So in closing here, before we go ahead and shut this whole thing down, we're going to go around the horn one more time. We're going to go ahead and start with you, Jonas. In closing here, with your final thoughts on this game, what do you think needs to happen moving forward so the Spurs can kind of turn this thing around and really make a run at, you know, really grabbing this 8th seed?
Well, I honestly don't think that anything needs to change. I know that sounds weird, but I think that sometimes when you play with rotations and lineups too much, that's when you can throw things out of whack. We've seen DeJounte as a starting point guard.
Let me stop you right there, Jonas. Let me throw this at you. If these lineups aren't working, why keep putting them out there if you're not getting the production you want?
I don't know that you're not quite getting the production you want. I just don't think you're getting it consistently, right? And so how do you build consistency? You continue to start with the same guys. Put them in the same situations over and over and over again. The more times that you face that situation, the more times you're going to be able to, you're going to start to learn how to adjust to that situation. Now, the only thing that I might change here, and Wesley, I think you're onto it here, is it time we finally see Derek White and DeJounte Murray start a basketball game together and shut down teams from the get-go?
That makes too much sense, Jonas. I think Coach Pop isn't going to go for that.
I think we talked about it. The last time I was on here before the holidays with y'all, and we had said DeJounte at the 1, Derek at the 2, DeMar at the 3, LA at the 4, and Jakob at the 5, and go into the second quarter with a 20-10 game going on right there, because you held the opposing offense to 10 points. Now, I don't think that's going to happen these next 2 games because you've got the Greek Freak coming in. You've got the home and away series going on. The best record in basketball, I heard the guys on the TV broadcast say, it's going to be a test. But I think that the biggest thing at this point, guys, is going to be that mental element, because as good as the Spurs have been at playing basketball the last 20 years, they've been one of the most mentally tough teams over that stretch. And I think the last year you could look at the body language and you could see guys checking in and out. This year you see it checking in and out. Last year I remember it was right around the rodeo road trip, and we were asking Patty Mills, hey, what's different? Why is the team, and Patty's like, I think we need to have dinners. I think we need to go out to the movies, because they weren't there mentally together. This is going to be a little bit of a rough stretch. It should be able to end okay. If you look at the end of the 7, you've got like the Hawks, you've got the Raptors, you've got the middle of the road East. And if the West has always been better than the East, then this is the time to kind of prove it. But first, you've got to get through Milwaukee, and how do the guys respond back from that? I'm not making any changes. Like I said, the only thing I might do is get a look at that Derek White. But Pop, honestly, in all of his genius that he has, might just be saving that for us for the playoffs, because an 8 seed still makes it to the playoffs. So he might be.
Yeah, but you have to get that 8 seed. That's my gripe. If you're playing for the 8th seed, Jonas, you got to play that lineup now, because it might not even happen. They might not even make it.
We're at the 8th seed right now. You've got to maintain. It's not a matter of.
But they lost.
But we're still at the 8th seed. It's not. 8 seed still makes it to the dance. And as I've said many times before, you can't dance with the hottest girl at the party if you don't even make it to the party. Right now,
you can dance with the hottest girl. You know how you dance with the hottest girl at the party? You go and ask her to dance first before you ask anybody else.
But you've got to go to the party first, Joe, and an 8 seed still gets you to the party.
I didn't buy my ticket to the prom, so they're not going to let me in. Is that what you're saying?
Pop has been doing this for the majority of my life.
I love it so much.
This is the first time he's run into some real adversity without the big three. I've said it on this show before too, that there is nobody on that court right now that has the champion's mindset. That's why I want Tim Duncan to be a more involved coach with the players, because he needs to teach these guys how to have the champion's mindset. And I don't think that that's something you can teach. So that's kind of just a never-ending cycle of, well, what do we do then, right? You're not going to get rid of all the talent that you have on this team, but you've got to keep putting these guys against adversity and putting them against adversity. And right now is the time to do it. The foot will go down on the throttle again when we find ourselves at 9 or 10, or we might even go on a run and find ourselves in 6 or 7. As long as we make it to the dance, we make it to the dance.
We ain't coming in at 6 or 7. I'll tell you that. We'll be lucky to make the 8, as inconsistent as the Spurs have been. So I think, Jonas, you either been drinking or you've been smoking on that good before you got on this show.
Y'all know my football affiliation, and I haven't seen playoffs since 2004. So make it to the dance, and they talk about it in football all the time. Wild card teams still make it to the Super Bowl, still win the Super Bowl. This last year, your wild card team in baseball went on to win the whole thing in the World Series with the Nationals. Just make it to the dance. Don't change anything right now.
All right, so you heard it from Jonas. Go to the dance, Stag, and then you just ask the prettiest girl to dance with you first. I'm just playing. Well, anyway, we'll go ahead and go with you, Wesley. Wesley, in closing here, your final thoughts. How can the Spurs turn this thing around, and hopefully get that 8th seed? I mean, something needs to change, man. I ain't going to lie. Jonas says he wants to stand pat. How you feeling, Wesley?
Is it too late to maybe get Jonas to come over to the Spurs instead?
Oh, man.
I don't know. No, okay, look, I just going to be real. Jonas, I agree with you to that extent. I mean, you could be the 8th seed, and absolutely, we've seen the shockers that have occurred in the NBA over history, including that 99. Well, the 99 Knicks team for one went all the way to the finals.
True.
Denver Nuggets back in the day over the Seattle Supersonics,
and of course Golden State and yeah, but that's rare though. That's rare.
Let's not forget the Memphis Grizzlies and the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So it does happen, and you're right. I mean, it's a rare thing, but it does happen. I do agree kind of on both of your ends with what you're saying about it. They're not going to be better than the 8th seed with the current roster that they have. I don't see it. I kind of had looked ahead to the end of December, thinking that when they got there, they really needed to be 2 games below 500 in order to have a chance to make a run. And we still sat respectively at the 8th seed, but 4 games back. And I even tweeted that out tonight. Is that this is kind of that crossroads right now? Is that time when either this team is going to make a push and is going to make a playoff run that keeps them in or cements them in. But here's the other thing, Jonas and Steven and Joe, is the team that they're fighting for the 8th seed with right now is the Portland Trailblazers. And the Portland Trailblazers have a legitimate superstar, somebody that is mentally tough, and Damian Lillard, that is capable of taking over ball games. And is absolutely going to be the kind of guy that will take care of cementing his team to be a playoff contender. And I kind of wanted to put this in a different light with Oklahoma City, because everybody thought that OKC was going to struggle this year. But the thing that the Thunder have that the Spurs don't is to what Jonas was talking about, is the mental fortitude. Mm-hmm. It's Chris Paul. He's the leader of that team.
He's the leader of that team.
Yeah.
Absolutely the leader. And you know what? If you really were paying attention tonight, he's made his teammates better. Did you notice that Dennis Schroeder, who used to be a kind of wild card guy with the Hawks, when he was with the Hawks, he'd run up and down the floor kind of uncontrollable. Did you notice him make a few of those Chris Paul moves where he stopped, let the player catch up behind him, moved to his right, frustrated Derek White a few times, frustrated a couple of the guys, and then made just simple plays. I mean, just pull up jumpers in the lane, just was patient. Did you notice Gilgeous-Alexander with the same kind of concept at times, having a good shot, passing it up, making a move, probing a little bit, getting a better shot? That's a young guy. They didn't just get that this year because, all of a sudden they're a year older. That's Chris Paul. That's absolutely Chris Paul and what he provides that team, other than just a scoring threat. That's where the Spurs lack. They have scoring threats. They don't have leadership. They don't have the guys to make their teammates better. And because of that, they're going to struggle in January, and they're going to struggle on the road to your road trip. And it's going to happen because this team gets into a little bit of a twit whenever it starts to get behind. They lose themselves, and we saw it in the third quarter. They don't have the energy. All of a sudden, panic. The ball doesn't move. It sticks. Nobody has confidence. Nobody steps up and is brave about shooting a three-pointer anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you end up getting is a whole bunch of short-arm shots, bad fouls.
All right, guys, so hold on for a sec. I think I kind of lost you all here for a minute, so I got to bring you all back.
It could be worse. I mean, the Spurs could be coached by Jason Garrett. They could have come off the floor tonight to clapping. Woo.
All right, well, we got you all back now.
I can't wait to hear Pop's remarks yet, though.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, we had a little technical difficulty, but we got you all back and running again, so everyone can hear you all. So Wesley was going to go ahead and finish his spin and his take. So now we're going to go ahead and pitch to you, Stephen. But before I do, I'm going to give you all a bit of truth to hit you all with some observations that I've let's say watched develop over, I guess, the course of these first was it like 32 games that the Spurs have played so far. What I see a lot is a lot of hero ball near the end of the games, especially during the fourth quarter. And it is, like you were saying, when teams go down, get on the Spurs, and the Spurs are having to play from behind, you see a lot of hero ball. You see a lot of isolation plays. Like you all had said, the ball stops moving. It sticks. There's no ball movement. They stop setting screens for each other. There's not a lot of pick and pops like there were. I think one of the better pick and pops that I've seen out there, it happens between Derek White and Jakob Poeltl, or even Lonnie Walker and Jakob Poeltl, or even DeJounte Murray and Jakob Poeltl. They seem to always find him when he sets the screen. They come off the screen. Jakob moves without the ball. He starts being aggressive, going to the rim, and then they'll hit him with the pass, and he goes in, and he's right in stride. So all he does is take one leap, and it's always a dunk. It's a layup. I like that high energy play. I think it's something that they need to go to more, because that's something that LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't really give you. That's something that Jakob Poeltl, or Blaka Poeltl, like Jonas likes to call him, can give you, because he's more of a more athletic player, I believe, than LaMarcus Aldridge.
So Joe, if I may, really quick, looking at the stat sheet, do we find it alarming then that Jakob only had 15 minutes in tonight's game?
That is alarming to me, and that's what I was going to go ahead and allude to. We didn't see a lot of Jakob in the third quarter when that lead started evaporating. And when Jakob's in the game, I think he gives the Spurs a better chance of winning, just because of his defense and his ability to run the floor. Those are two things that I've made as far as observations go. Another thing is the Spurs seem like everyone has their own agenda at times, especially in that second half. they don't really play good team ball. In the first half, they'll come out and play great team basketball. They play good as a team. But when you start getting into that third and fourth quarter, the inconsistencies start to show themselves because old habits die hard. And what happens is they start losing that lead. You know, they might have a 9-point lead, a 10-point lead. It starts to evaporate. They start to panic, and they revert back to their old habits again, where they're not playing great team defense. Everybody's missing assignments. They're trying to force the issue. You see a lot of turnovers. They get out of sorts, and it's all self-inflicted until they can correct those things. And it all has to come from a psychological standpoint. Like you were saying, Wesley, it's mental fortitude. This team just isn't mentally tough in the second half of games this season, and that's why they're losing the league a lot. You know, I don't know how to fix that. I don't think Coach Pop knows how to fix that. Coaching staff doesn't know how to get through to these players to correct these inconsistencies and these issues. That is a real head scratcher. Who in this team is going to go ahead and take that ownership and go out there and start trying to get through to some of these younger players out there on the court to make better decisions? So that's going to be the number one factor for me moving forward for the rest of the season. Can they get over these little intricacies that they do in the third and fourth quarter that aren't good or conducive to the team winning? So with that said, Stephen, go ahead.
Just want to ask you just to expound on something you just said for a sec. Do you think that that's because the assistant coaches for the Spurs have changed so much? They're still young and raw, you know, and they don't have that kind of player. I know we want to make Tim Duncan that kind of guy, but he's not an outspoken kind of fella. You know, do you think that it's because they just don't have that assistant coach to turn to on the bench and talk to them about the type of defense and grit that they need? I mean, how much do you think that's playing a factor?
I don't think it has anything to do so much as the coaches aren't able to go ahead and convey the message clearly. I think it has more to do with the players. You know, the players need to come together, and it's something that Jonas alluded to just a little while ago. He was saying, Patty Mills himself said, there's no cohesiveness with this team as there were in years past. They would hang out together. They would go to the movies together. They would go paintballing together. You don't really hear a lot of that anymore. Everybody's doing their own thing. They see each other maybe in practice. Hey, what's up? How's it going? But how can you really have that camaraderie and come together as a team when you're not hanging out together? You know, they're like, oh, we don't hate each other. Okay, that's cool. But if you really want to go ahead and you know, bring this brotherhood in and make it stronger and make it translate into better play out there on the court, you all have to hang out with each other. You have to break bread with someone. You have to drink with someone. Really get to know them on a personal level to form that camaraderie. And I think this is something that this team is missing. And I don't know if they're ever going to do that again. Who knows? Coach Pop would actually go out of his way, and he still does when they go out on the road and on certain occasions to have the team come together, and he'll take them, like he says, on a field trip to see something of importance. But the team, beyond doing that, they don't really have that where they do that on their own. You know, and I think that might be an issue. So until that occurs, we're still going to see the same type of issues unfold for the rest of the season. There really is no easy fix. It's beyond the coach's control. This has more to do with the players out there on the court and them coming together and really talking and getting to know one another, getting in there and finding out what makes each other tick from a mental aspect of the game. You know, so with that said, Stephen, I mean, let us know. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I changed my lights here in the back to green because I'm green with envy at all these other teams and how well how well they have it. But I mean, so here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. I agree with Wesley and I agree with you, Jonas and Joe. But I wouldn't change anything, honestly. I mean, one thing I would.
No, you're a Jonas lover, man.
Hold on. Now, here's the thing. The reason I say that is because, again, I made this point before. Pop is not going to play whoever comes in. If we make a trade and we trade, I don't care who the hell you trade for. Pop is not going to play the guy because he has to learn the system, which, again, I understand. It's completely normal. That's how the process goes. But when you're fighting for your playoff lives, and the Spurs are doing just that right now at the 8th seed, you don't have time to learn the system. You got to go out there and play ball. That's why they traded for this guy, because they think, hey, he can help the team right now, not next month, next year, now. That's why you make trades in the middle of the season, because you need help now. I don't see Pop playing if they make a trade, the person they're going to trade for. He barely plays DeMarre Carroll, and DeMarre Carroll's been in the NBA longer than Lonnie Walker has, and we look how that's turning out. So
he's been in the NBA longer than Baloney, Marco Benelli. So
that is also true. Again, it's turning out. I mean, I know you guys made a joke about Jason Garrett and all that stuff, but I mean, the Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since I was 1 or 2 years old.
God bless.
I know.
Wow.
I know. I feel so old saying that. I know that how struggles. I know how teams struggle. I've been on Twitter. You guys have seen me if you follow me, advocating for Jason Garrett to be fired. I was hoping the Cowboys would actually lose the last game so he would be fired, but that's a different story. It's kind of like the same situation where Jerry Jones controls the Cowboys, where Pop controls the Spurs, obviously, because he's the coach. And Pop's not going to make a change. He's not going to make a change because as long as the Spurs are hovering around 8, 9, they're right on that line of making the playoffs, he's not going to make a change. He's going to ride this thing until they're drastically out of it, and then he'll make a change. So the only change I would make, change the starting lineup around. If Brent Forbes isn't giving you something, take him out, put in Lonnie Walker. Of course, it's not going to happen because I don't know if Lonnie has info on Pop that no one knows. Kidding, of course. But I just don't know what the situation is. But, I mean, just to make it short, because my battery is going to run out. I have like 10% on this laptop right now, and I might have to cut out. That the only difference is Spurs should just stand pat, see where we are at the All-Star break. If they're still around 8 or 9 at the All-Star break, ride it out to the end. If they're 10, 11, 12, maybe make a change and see what happens. But as of right now, moving forward, these next 2 games, I expect blowouts in both to Jonas and Milwaukee. I expect we're going to be talking about a 30, 40-point loss at that point.
They could surprise you, and they could win the whole damn thing. They could beat Milwaukee back-to-back, and then the next game go and lose to somebody like the Pelicans or the Cavs. You know,
if they blow out Milwaukee in back-to-back games, I will change my profile picture on Twitter to whatever you want, Joe, for the next week.
Oh, man, don't do that to me, man. Because I'll get something strange for you, dude.
The scary thing here is that that's happened. We've already beat the Clippers. We beat the Lakers. We beat damn near every top team out there because we tend to play to the level of the competition. And tonight we just
not on the road. That's the thing. You're going to Milwaukee on the road.
But you've got 1-1.
True.
If you can build momentum coming off the home on Saturday. Maybe.
I would disagree, though. Actually,
they're on the road Saturday, aren't they?
No, because we finish up the 3-game homestand and then we go on the road.
Yeah, but I disagree. They've actually played well on the road. They just don't close games out. But they've actually played a lot better on the road than they had been. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, the Spurs don't really have a true closer. That's the issue. They just have beyond. You have DeMar DeRozan. You have LaMarcus Aldridge, which are your stars on this team. And beyond that, you just have a lot of other players who can play decent at times, but they're not consistent. And then when you get in the third, who's a closer? Who?
He's not getting the time that he needs. His name is Lonnie Walker. His name is Lonnie Walker the fourth.
This is the problem, dude. This is I'm going to tell you what the exact issue is with Lonnie Walker and why he gets yanked a lot of times. Lonnie Walker is a great superstar in the making. I like the kid. I like everything he does. I like his skill set. Dangerous in the open court, very athletic, able to get out there and run with the best of them. The issue that I think Pop has with him is that Lonnie gets himself in foul trouble. He'll get himself in foul trouble or he'll commit a lot of fouls at impromptu times throughout the game. And when that occurs, Pop immediately yanks him and he'll insert in one Marco Bellinelli. And then from that point on, you're just seeing Lonnie Walker right there on the bench and Marco getting those minutes. Why Lonnie was yanked tonight, I have no idea. Lonnie didn't have any fouls. So there must have been something else going on. Maybe there was a play that he was late getting into his position. He was late on an assignment, getting to a man on defensive coverage. I don't know what the issue was, or Pop might have felt that by inserting another player that gave him a more opportunity to win the game. I just don't know the the reasoning and the logic behind it. We're just all armchair coaches at this juncture. We're not getting paid by anybody to coach a team. So we're in the same boat as everybody else. So there's really no logic beyond that, other than that Lonnie does tend to get in foul troubles sometimes, not all the time. But I agree. I want to see him more out there. You know, I think he's not. The thing that I like about Lonnie is Lonnie's not afraid. I see some fear still and hesitation in DeJounte Murray. I think DeJounte wants to get everybody so involved in the game that he forgoes taking his shot. If I was the coach, I would just tell DeJounte Murray, shoot your shot, kid. If you got an open shot, just take it. If you're feeling good about it and you're in rhythm, take the shot. We rather have his offense. If everybody else isn't getting involved, it doesn't matter. Just take your shots. And I see that not only with DeJounte, but with a lot of other of the Spurs players. They get in their own ways at times. There was a scenario here, I think it was in the first or the second quarter, where I saw Patty Mills, I think it was, and it was DeMar DeRozan. They passed the ball to each other. One gave up a three. The other one gave up a really clean-looking, probably 16-foot jump shot. And that could have been a 4-point or a 5-point swing. But what happened is DeRozan passed it to Mills. Mills turned it over. Patty Mills passed up the shot. You know, he bounced past the ball to DeMar DeRozan. DeMar DeRozan winds up turning the ball over. So instead of having a 5-point swing, you wind up giving the ball to OKC, and they're running the court the other way for an easy layup or an easy dunk. And the hesitation, I think, is the real issue with this team. I don't know how you coach that and tell them to get over that fear. Have no fear. Play like Lonnie Walker. I like the kid. He goes out there and he don't give a damn, you know? And he's very electric in all his plays. He's on the highlight reel almost all the time. You see him out there. Everything he does is exciting, you know? And you just enjoy watching that from a fan perspective. I just wish there was more of it. And I think everybody feels the same way. When you see Lonnie out there, you feel, man, this kid's going to do something spectacular. And then when you see Baloney out there, Marco Beninelli, you're like, why is he out there on the court? It's asinine, man.
It's the Spurs way of tanking. I'm just telling you that.
Okay.
Subscribe. It's when they want to get a better draft pick, they're going to play Marco, or they're going to take Lonnie out of the game, at inopportune times, and we'll see. It
was a tough year to be a Cowboy fan. It's going to be an even tougher year to be a Spurs fan. It's going to be one of these seasons, and we've already been telling people, and we've been trying to prepare them even since the beginning of the season. It's going to be tough. You have to sometimes go through adversity before you can get to that promised land. I think the Spurs have a good young core. They're in the G League and they're developing. Once those players catch up to the guys that we already have, I think we're going to see something special, but we're still maybe 3 years out. And it's going to take patience. And, if you're a Cowboy fan, you got nothing but patience, because you know damn well that the team is going to let you down.
Yes.
Even a Browns fan like Jonas knows too, so when your team does good and they're out there and they're doing their thing, I mean, that's more cause for you to celebrate, so we just have to be patient. So as we end this show, I'm going to go ahead and give everybody an opportunity to plug themselves so they can the fans can get a hold of you all on social media. We'll start with you, Steven. Where can they see you and all the great content that you're doing out there for Project Spurs and the Project Spurs Network?
All right, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at @TheStephenA_. On Twitter, that's Stephen with a PH. Anything from San Antonio Spurs, Rampage, SAFC, UIW football, UTSA football, all the good stuff over at Project Spurs Network and Project Spurs. Head over there to me on Twitter at @TheStephenA_. And if you're into TV stuff, I might plug this too here. Why not? You can follow me on Twitter at StephenTV_. Anything from DC TV to reality TV, I am your guy for all of that stuff. So thank you, and
So hit up Steven, follow him so you can talk about anything related to the entertainment industry all the way to sports. And you, Jonas, where can they hit you up on social media?
Well, I have a great opportunity to cover our Austin Spurs with the Project Spurs Network. Little plug for them, y'all, is they got a game on Friday, and on Sunday they're finally back home after being off on the road for most of December. So if you haven't had your opportunity to catch Keldon, Luca, Quinn Derry, my guy, Dedrick Lawson, and everybody on that roster play, they're doing all right. They're doing okay. And so I'll be up there. Look for some stuff coming out on Project Spurs Network after this weekend. On Twitter, I'm at JarkClonus. I talk, of course, Spurs, Austin Spurs. I follow a lot of Steven's writings on the Rampage. And then, of course, my Browns. But if you want to talk who's going to coach my team next year, I really
telling you it's going to be Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett.
I'm going to be honest. If you want to talk about who's going to coach my team next year, I don't want to hear it.
Hey, maybe they can. Maybe that black cat that was on the field of the Cowboys games is available, man. The cat. You can get the cat.
I'm a diehard Browns fan, and even my relationship right now, our status is complicated right now. So we'll just
oh man, it's complicated? Question mark. Complicated? Question mark. So Wesley, where can they get a hold of you on social media?
Yeah, first of all, these dudes they're no lie. Michael DeLeon, Project Spurs, Steven, and obviously Jonas, and the great writing that's going on there. It's phenomenal. So if you're not following those guys, you need to. There's really good content. I have a good read all the time, and it's just fun to see these guys and to see such a professional take on the Spurs or on the Austin G League team or Rampage or whatever the case may be. I'm at Wesley Perk on Twitter. Certainly look me up. Right now I'm too busy making memes about how frustrated I am with both the Dallas Cowboys and the San Antonio Spurs and the Big 12, which is let's not even go there. But nonetheless, there are brighter days ahead. Let's talk some content. And I'm absolutely a band director, so talk up some band stuff. You need some questions about instruments or music, I'm your guy for that too.
Oh, there you go. So you make sure you go follow Wesley. So for Jonas Clark and Steven Anderson and Wesley Perkins, I'm Joe Garcia, and thank you for tuning in and watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. And like always, stop the hate, be kind, we're out, peace.